Good morning, everybody. I hope you are having an excellent week. Thursday morning, just answering a very specific question. A lot of people are struggling with getting started on their presentation, which is understandable. We haven't talked about it too much. So I'm just going to do a quick video and give an example of a presentation I've received in the past, so you have a sense of what we're looking at. And I'll probably do one more of these later on when we're talking about another presentation, which might be worth more than this one. But this is just to get you started. So obviously the first place you start, if you go into the discussion area, there is a rubric, and that is always a good place to start because that's where you figure out your success criteria. We click on that, and you should be able to see this. Your level 4 expectation is not that detailed. It says use a Web 2.0 tool to present information in a creative, okay, got it, creative, so a little bit different, a little bit unique, interesting, kind of a redundant word there, and aesthetically pleasing. I think aesthetically spelled wrong, but you get the point. Aesthetically pleasing means that the design portion of this matters. So you're trying to create content that is put into a nice and interesting form. Theme is clearly defined and fits under the broad banner of social history. So most of what you do in a history course like this, where we're really moving through history quickly, is you do, a lot of it becomes military and political history because that's the lens through which we look at the importance of how things changed. When laws change, when wars happen, where there's reconfigurations of world power, or where different political parties are pushing different ideas, those tend to change the ultimate, or have the most profound effects on society. Of course, this is kind of a biased view, right? If you think about it, a lot of people would say, well, what about something like, the rise of social media? Hasn't that changed a lot of things? And you could argue, well, yeah, of course the rise of social media has changed a lot of things, because now everybody posts everything online, and the first, even the way people think about their lives is totally different. You used to think about why you did something because you thought about, the ethical good of something. In an age where everything is online, maybe the first thought is, when you do anything, is whether you can post it or not. Maybe you don't experience even the most basic experience, like a concert, in the same way you would have in the 1950s, when you didn't have a chance to take a picture of it. And we'll get into kind of a critique of technology later, but you get the point. Social history is everything outside of that. So I give you 9 examples. You can use any example, okay? So let's get right into an example of someone who did this. Oh no, wait, sorry. Let's get into what a Web 2.0 tool is. Basically, a Web 2.0 tool is a tool that uses the abilities of the wide web to their fullest. So something like a PowerPoint would not be considered a Web 2.0 tool. Even though it is a presentation tool, it can't be shared in quite the same ways that the more modern tools can be. So the first kind of popular Web 2.0 tool that you would have been exposed to, and which you might even be comfortable using, was a Prezi. Prezi kind of has a design feature to it where you can take a bunch of slides, and instead of them just being kind of randomly, moving from one to the next, you can now have an overarching theme, and then you can zone in and out of ideas and show the relative importance to one another, and kind of creatively put a background music to it, maybe appropriate music, and then you've used the Prezi form to its maximum capacity. Now, is that the only one? Definitely not. This is just a website someone came up with called Online Tools and 2.0 Applications. And they go through so many different types. But for our purposes, if we go down to the presentation tools, you might have heard of, and you might even use some of these. Maybe you have a specialty, maybe you like one, maybe you've done other presentations for classes, and you just, maybe you hate all presentation tools, but you had to do a project in grade 6, and you can remember that. To me, some of these are better than others. The Prezi is kind of old, but effective in some ways. I personally enjoy Powtoon and I'm going to give you an assignment to use that for, mostly because I like the way they have limited symbols, and you kind of have to be creative with the way you create symbols of significance using those, and it's animated, so it's kind of fun. Um, People know Animoto for sure. Google Slides probably. Haiku Deck, I'm assuming you've seen it at some point. And then there's different slide shares. This is more of a blogging tool that we'll look at later. And, for me to claim to be an expert on this, definitely not. I haven't used half of these, but feel free to explore. So I'm just going to show you a basic Prezi that someone handed in, and I'll explain what's good about it and what's not so great about it. Is the music going to go on? So this person did a Roaring Twenties technological presentation. So this is just like the introductory slide, and then it zooms in and starts talking about the advancements of technology. Overall, it's going to talk about the importance of radio, automobile, assembly line, teleprinter, insulin. Okay, pretty straightforward. This is, I would say, this was about a level 3 presentation in that it presented a lot of information, but it didn't do so in a particularly excellent and informed way. It's all paragraphs with some pictures, when really you could post a video in here and can really show a clip that was helpful. You could get a little bit deeper into the information. Also, you notice the background instrumental, not really connected. I think this is like an Eminem sample. It's not really connected to the actual 20s, which would be helpful. I'm going to kill the music just because it's getting loud. And, as you go through here, and then here. So quite a bit of information, but, not a lot of design prowess, really. So, it's an A for effort. Sources are cited, but definitely more that could be done in terms of using this. Okay? So, let me see. Is there anything else that needs to be said about that? Not really. I think that clears up most of your questions. Subject could be as simple as what people ate and the way food was delivered. Social history could focus on something as specific as just the radio and the development of radio. It could focus on culture and nightlife. It could focus on sports and whether people watch sports the same way they do now. Really, you're just trying to think about something that is important in society, or that you find interesting about society, and then go back then. If you're into video games, well, there obviously weren't video games, but people did something with the time they spent on their video games, and kids still liked toys, we think, but maybe they didn't. Did they manufacture toys? Probably. There's toys from back in the 15th century, so maybe you could start looking into that, right? I'm just throwing out ideas. Anything you choose to do, I'll be happy to. If you don't have, if you're not sure, you can always send me an email and be like, "Sir, can I do this?" And I will probably say yes. And then you can choose your tool and get started with it. Again, don't spend hour after hour trying to figure out a tool, but do spend a little bit of time experimenting with it and try to have a creative form. You're bringing. All these tools are about design and about making things look good, and it's not a skill that we all necessarily have, but it's a skill that you can consider as you get into making presentations for yourself. I was at a presentation yesterday when a guy was showing me kind of how to make my banners and just the whole form of D2L, which a lot of people say is pretty boring, a lot more interesting by putting different icons and just totally revamping it. Now that takes some time and effort, and my question is, well, is it really worth it? Uh, and that's going to be a toss-up, but the truth is, in the 21st century, design seems to matter more and more, and it's good to have some sort of, if you want to get a message across, it's good to have some sort of medium that allows you to do so with a little bit of dazzle. Okay, I've said enough. That's 10 minutes of your life and my life. We will talk soon. Please email me if you have any questions at all. I'm happy to answer them, and a lot of people have been asking some very good questions lately. Take care.